Yesterday was an up day. We did make a new all-time high. We did make a new all-time closing high. But no doubt the sellers came in off the open and really trimmed those gains. What does it mean? Well, we'll see what happens when that PCE comes out at 8:30. We got some stocks moving. More bad news for SMCI yesterday. Cassava Sciences, not looking good. Costco earnings, we love to talk about Costco. Great guest at 8:35. The one and only Jay Woods will be joining us from Freedom Capital Markets. And here's an interesting sector to talk about. We're wrapping things up on this Friday. Let's get started with pre-market prep.
Welcome to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep.
This is a volatile puppy here.
It's all about execution styles and strategies.
All right, good morning, traders and investors. Let's just call it flat at 58.4 1/4. The buck is trading down just a few pennies here, 10021. TLT trying to get away from support there, but not doing a great job. Up 3 cents, 98.09. Crude in the green by 22 cents at 67.89. Gold slightly red, down 6.90, 26.88. Silver in the 32 handled, but down a nickel at 32.27. Bitcoin futures, they're green again, holding up at yesterday's high. They're up $750. It's 65,965. Triple D, I'm going to give you a number, and I'm going to get one. And do you know what that number represents? One. This not has to do with the markets. Where's Dennis?
Sorry, he didn't ask to come on. So I was still hiding in the background.
Triple D and AB simultaneously.
We have to have permission to come on the show.
We have to be summoned like we're a genie out of the bottle. You got to say our name 3 times.
Yeah.
One. What does the number one represent today? AAB, you can hop into.
Ranking of Michigan football teams after this week.
No, close. Sports.
I even wore my Michigan shirt.
Yeah. It's sports related. You're warm.
Oh, the Tigers need one game to clinch the playoffs.
It is.
Yeah.
They've been
the magic number.
They're roaring. They're roaring right now.
All right. Before
we one. So
one.
Are we getting it, or is this going to be like?
Oh yeah.
How many games left? 4
they're
games
the hottest.
left? How many
the hottest
left?
team
4?
in baseball.
What do they have? 4, 3, or 4?
They have 3 games left, all against the White Sox, all at home. If they need
win
to
one of them,
all they need to do is throw. They even can throw Scooble on Sunday. You have to. If not, he's going to get major. Yeah, win one game and then rest Scooble. Maybe have him pitch two times, 2.5 times in the next 5-game series. But our chat hates sports. So let's get to the markets.
Yeah, that's true. The chat does not like sports. So, okay. So we'll move away from here, move away from the sports talk just for a few minutes here, folks. We're moving on to hurricanes. We're now talking weather.
Hockey?
We're the weather network. The Benzinga Weather Network right here. Hurricanes. Hurricane hits Florida. And I don't think it did too much damage. I didn't hear too many crazy stories. Let us know if you're down there, if it's different. Obviously, very scary. The biggest hurricane to hit the Tallahassee area ever. But I didn't hear any reports of like crazy, like buildings collapsing. Or I know there was some flooding. Always flooding in Gulfport where my father-in-law's got a place. But
how come? Why does that always get flooding?
Just too low. Like it's a setup. It gets a bad thunderstorm, that road gets flooded, and then they were, media sensationalizes everything. So they automatically, it doesn't look that bad. We'll go to Gulfport. It's always bad in Gulfport. So they go there, and the road's underwater, as it is in a normal thunderstorm sometimes. So, I mean, it was obviously significant. It was like foot underwater. So there was flooding for sure in Gulfport. But, they're used to hurricanes down there. They talk about, you go down to Gulfport, they all talk about, this hurricane and this hurricane. Yeah, we're good. Tallahassee's not used to it. So Tallahassee, Mayor was obviously precautions, talking about trees coming down, talking about severe flooding, possible 20-foot storm surges. I didn't hear too much bad stuff though. So you're not seeing like this trade where GNRC is up $5, $10 here today. It's kind of run up into the report. So it kind of feels like this was the run up ahead of the hurricane, and it's not that much damage here. So I sold my GNRC, the rest of that I had of it this morning. So I think the time to take the profits in the GNRC trade is now.
I mean,
go ahead, AB. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, correct me if I'm wrong, Dennis, but if you're buying all these stocks in anticipation of a hurricane, are you not kind of then like hoping it's bad so that the stocks keep going up?
Oh gosh, you're bringing ethics and morals into trading.
Well, hold on.
There are no again.
Hold on, because I have
ethics and morals into trading. No, you never hope it's bad. You don't want to see anybody get hurt, but you want to see everyone, when you're launching this RC, you want to see everyone lose power.
Okay,
nobody hurt, just everybody lose power.
That's the flip side to it. If I was long all these stocks into the hurricane and you said to me, oh, wow, Aaron, now you're going to be hoping that the hurricane's bad, so your stocks go up, I'd say, no, I'm invested in the companies that are going to help people as, you know, the storm that does the cleanup. So, you know, you
Lowe's,
have
Home Depot. So your typical hurricane trade, morals aside, GNRC is the pure play always. And then you've got URI, because rental, you know, obviously the renting stuff, renting equipment, cleanup. Then Lowe's, Home Depot. You get short the insurance companies, ALL. Again, this trade has already been put on. GNRC, ahead of the hurricane, has went from 141 to 152. You're talking about, you know, over a 5% move here, 6% move here in the 4 days prior to this hurricane. So the run up into the event happened. The event has happened. The hurricane is now made landfall. It's going to be downgraded. I think it's getting downgraded. You know, it's a 1 or whatever left now. The event is over. Now, there could be another hurricane coming around. But typically, GNRC, this is the typical action in the stock, and this is the main one that I play. Typically goes up ahead of the hurricanes and usually sells off after. So you are now after. So you're 153. Johnny come lately is like, oh, let's go buy some GNRC here. Everybody's out of power. A lot of people already been positioned that way. You're probably buying it from somebody that already was thinking about that when the stock was 142. So you're paying up $10 for everybody to lose power here. Typically, this is more of the selling opportunity when the hurricane passes than the buying opportunity.
Technically speaking, right at yesterday's high, 153.21. We did trade above that. Let's get the pre-market action here. So if you're looking for more follow through, you always like to take out the previous day's high, and then the next daily high is 155.36. Be careful if you're buying this off the hop. You get a nice run up, a buck and a half. You don't get to that resistance level. Then you come back down through it. You know, the old whoops trade there on the open. I haven't been following him much, but don't you love that guy on the Weather Channel, Jim Cantor? He has his rain jacket on and like the rain, you know, and he's just standing out there in the middle of it, covering it. And you're like, dude, like, couldn't pay me enough money to get out there and cover something like that. But we'll see. I haven't heard of any reported deaths. I'm the ethical person here. I
haven't either. There always seems to be a few, like people who are trying to be heroes, basically. I mean, the one good thing, like I was talking to my 7-year-old daughter about it, because talking about hurricanes and she starts getting stressed out about everything. And obviously I say, you know, there's no hurricanes in Georgian Bay. There's no hurricanes, you know, up in the middle of, you know, we have no oceans near us. So you don't have to worry about hurricanes. But then she worries about other people.
In the tundra.
Yeah, she worries about other people, you know, and the whole thing. So, you know, I think, and I forget, what did it say before that? I went on the bad tangent. I don't even remember what I was going to say. Lose my train of thought here. I'm getting old now. Now I just flat out, I rarely do that, but I'm starting to do it more and more every day. I think I lose my train of thought. You know, oh yeah, deaths. I was like, there's not that many deaths, and there is always people. But the good thing about hurricanes is there's so much warning. Like people, you know, are warned significantly. It's not like a tornado where it shows up out of nowhere. People are warned. So they get away, the majority of people will get away from danger. So that's the good news. Obviously, you don't want to see homes destroyed, you don't want to see homes flooded, you don't want to see trees down. You want to see the power out if you're long GNRC, though. We just want to see power outages. That's all. But I'm out of my GNRC trade, so it's hurricane trade for me is over.
And so is this segment. Okay, let's go.
All right, moving on
Costco.
from that, let's go to some big news
Costco.
yesterday before we get into some earnings.
SMCI.
Yeah, so I'm going to Joel. SMCI, big news, of course, coming yesterday. Was trading up in the morning when we were doing the show off of Micron's earnings, but then at 10:50 a.m., around 10:45 more specifically, a headline hit from Wall Street Journal. The Justice Department probes server maker Supermicro Computer. Former employee accused AI server maker of accounting violations. The probe is at an early stage. So this, comes, of course, after a short report from Hindenburg a few weeks ago that accused them of some, creative accounting, we'll say. And then they delayed the 10K. And then now you have the Justice Department coming in. So it does look like at the end of the day, where there was smoke, there might be a fire. We don't know the exact details yet, but clearly SMCI has got some stuff going on, and the stock got absolutely hammered, down 55 bucks, 12.2%, down another $4 this morning, right at $400.
Bounced where it needed to bounce, in my opinion. You got to the 382. You did undercut it at 373, but you quickly got back up above that. Headline algos are like, sell, whatever, sell. Down $100 in like 100 seconds. And then we've bounced and stabilized a little bit here. So I think it's an overshoot, to be honest. I'm not saying I'm coming here buying SMCI today. There's a lot of things that we don't know. More information keeps coming. More headline risk here is there. But I think that 373 from yesterday is safe. Just my opinion.
Boy, this is getting convoluted. This is getting convoluted because you don't know if this is just an acceleration of the other news that they have someone within the company coming out and testifying, or this is like a whole, it keeps getting hit on this kind of news. So
it's the same headline. It's different investigation. So, I mean, we know this information. It's shocking that it goes down 100 points on this. I mean, you have all this stuff cooking here. It's kind of logical that the DOJ would get involved. I mean, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of logical that the DOJ. So the algo sell off 100 points because they just see DOJ involved, it equals automatic sell. But I don't think it surprises anyone that the DOJ would get involved. So with everything that's been said in SMCI, in the media everywhere over the course of the last 2 months, and since all this started, or 6 weeks since this has started, you think the DOJ isn't watching that? They're not watching the media? And everybody's talking about is SMCI cooking the books? I honestly think this is to be expected. It's a huge sell-off. I think obvious guy says, yeah, the DOJ was going to look into this. So we don't know anything has come of that. DOJ finds a whole bunch of crooked stuff in there, and then Katie bar the door, the stock's in trouble.
Another
cooking the books, stock's in trouble. But right now, all we know is there's investigations going on, and we're trusting, like if you're investing, if the case is to invest, you're trusting that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. We've talked about this before as well. So I think the 100-point sell-off was a little bit overdone yesterday.
Right, and just not knowing all the ramifications of this, but I look at it. I look at it from the perspective that I think Hindenburg's right, and I think this company's a zero. And this is,
this is just a perspective. Like, this is not your opinion. You're saying if, like this is all scenario analysis.
Scenario analysis, right? And I saw this pop up, and I had a big short. I have no position in SMC. I never will.
But saying hypothetically.
And I see this thing go from 382.80 to 484 yesterday. And I get a shot to bring it in around 400. I don't care, long term, short. I mean, I would be like, hallelujah. I just took all this heat for 2 weeks, almost the whole month, in one fall swoop, I get a chance to maybe get it below my average price. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm not selling it down here. I'm not buying it down here.
Again,
But
all
if you
hypothetical.
whole hypothetical, man, it's just it's a gift. If you got jammed down the short, or you were getting lucky, you were trying some puts yesterday. I mean, it's a big windfall. Now, if something major happens,
Yeah.
well, the stock could drop another $100. I'm just looking at it from a market
I mean,
structure.
DOJ finds something, the stock drops another $100 immediately.
Easy. Yep.
But if the DOJ says no, coast is clear, we're good, then coast is clear, we're good. It could be like the Unity headline, and look for that headline, because sometimes the algos won't buy it up 100 on something like that, but they'll sell off 100 on something like that. So just to the Unity point, as soon as that headline broke that they were getting rid of that controversial fee, I knew that was, I had to follow the story. And if you follow the story long enough on certain stocks, you kind of know, like, that's a big headline. That's a headline that's going to move it. And the algos are like, they don't know what that means, because it doesn't say, guidance raised, doesn't say investigation. There's nothing in the algorithms that say, oh, we got rid of, this controversial fee. There's no algo written for that. That's why it sat there, Unity, for what felt like forever. I mean, I bought the stock, I think it's 17.30 or something like that. Maybe it was even the 16s.
No,
and
it was 17.
And then I asked myself, it was sat there for like 20 minutes. I even tweeted out. I was like, I think this is big. And it took a long time. And then eventually, like 30 minutes later, the stock starts going up, because people start like, oh crap, this is why it was down. This is why it fell from 40 to 14. So not just went back to 40.
This was the day you bought it right here.
I can't remember. It was about 3 weeks ago. So
yeah, this was the day.
Where are you pointing out? Oh, in the top right chart. This 3 chart thing. I still hate the 3 charts thing. I know some people like
Dennis,
it, but I can't see it.
You hated 4 charts. You hated 3 charts.
I like 1 chart, because I'm a simple guy. I have 1 chart. I have 3 screens. Joel.
I know. I have
you have 3 screens with all kinds of information.
It's not all about you.
I have 1 chart on all those 3 screens, and it's a little chart in the corner. It's 5 charts are 5% of my screen use. This is why my trading is completely different. This is why I've been successful for 25 years of professional trading. It's because I don't rely completely on technical analysis. I like technical analysis. I look at technical analysis.
Can say that, but you don't have to pick on my charts. You can say that, but you don't have to pick on my
charts.
Let's
I get confused. I'm too stupid for 3 charts. I don't know where to look. I'm like, oh my God.
Get a piece of paper out and write upper right daily, lower right monthly, left is the 24-hour market, right?
Yeah.
Pre-market and after hours. Write that down. AB, pick it up.
All right. Okay. Let's go to a different stock that's facing some, we'll call it investigation. So SAVA Sciences, ticker SAVA. We know a retail favorite biotech company. So yesterday after the close, we got a headline that SEC charges SAVA Sciences 2 former executives for misleading claims about Alzheimer's clinical trial. And then almost immediately after that headline, we got another headline that says that SAVA Sciences resolves SEC investigations. So the company agreed to pay $40 million for this misleading data. And then, if you're thinking, well, what's the big deal? We see companies, pay fines or resolve suits all the time, and $40 million isn't that much. It's a $1.5 billion company. The stock is trading down, 10%, well more than $40 million worth. But my hunch is that it's just kind of like on the vibe of it, on the perception that this company was giving misleading clinical data. If they did it there, what if they were doing it in other places? So, they resolved the thing for $40 million, but it seems like there might be some more problems here. Stock is down 10%.
Consider this, though. The DOJ investigation into SAVA Sciences continues. So SEC has settled. Regulatory settled. DOJ has not settled. Criminal division, DOJ, Department of Justice, has not settled yet. So that is, one consideration is that this is not over. It's over for the SEC, not for the DOJ. So, so expecting, just to bounce back, on the SEC headline, maybe if the DOJ, you get a bounce back too. Remember, though, the stocks go down, they never go all the way back up. So if there's like an investigation and a settlement, they fall 10% on it. If it all gets absolved, they go up maybe 3, 4. They never get it all back because, one, to your point, maybe perception of the company is scarred a little bit, where people aren't as comfortable now that there was an investigation. I'm not as comfortable investing in this because I don't know what is going on. So there's all that perception aspect that AB was just talking about as well. But also DOJ investigation continues here. So snapback did not happen.
Absolute no man's land here if you're trying to trade this technically. Since late August, you've been in the trading range, basically from 26 to 32. You hit the top of that trading range yesterday, so nice quiet consolidation. So play the edges here if and when. But right now, you're trading under $30. Really, no man's land. Next daily low that comes into our play, and it did hit it in the after hours, was 27.02, but it's already bounced a buck 50 from that. Bottom of yesterday's range is up over $30 for cassava. And you know what we haven't looked at in a while? What about Biogen? Holy macro, Dennis. Look at that thing. Are they out on this stuff? We don't hear anything about them.
It's been a
anymore.
mess. I actually sold the rest of my Biogen. I'm
You
all out
did?
of Biogen. I had that. It was one of the first stocks that I ever bought in my long-term portfolio. It was probably back when I started investing. I traded for a while really without any direct investments, but I started investing like in 2001, like right during the tech bubble. My initial investments were all crushed because anything I bought in 2001 went down. Biogen I'd bought like back to 2000, probably 2003. I had it in my portfolio for 20 years. It was a good one. I bought it, my average cost base. Maybe you can figure it out. Maybe it wasn't that long ago. I don't know how far your charts don't go back far enough to probably see my buys. I feel like my original cost base on this was like $40, somewhere in there. And it ran to 400. It was really good. I'd sold some all the way up. Finally just done with it. There was a legacy position there. It was small and it was starting to leak here again. And just seems like they have lost their way to a certain extent. Joel, the stock has just been down for like 7-8 years. So I've moved on to greener pastures, hopefully greener pastures, and I'm all out of Biogen now.
Okay, little tangent there. Okay, I guess we got an earnings report.
We've got a few earnings reports. Let's start with the big one. Costco. Costco reported yesterday after the close. Got those numbers right here for Q4. EPS came in at $5.29, beat the $5.08 estimate. Sales came in at $79.69 billion, which actually missed the $79.97 billion estimate. Either way, that's a lot of money to make in a quarter. A lot of wholesale rotisserie chickens to sell and whatnot to make $79 billion. So you beat on the EPS. You missed on the sales. Comparable sales grew, this was for e-commerce. Adjusted e-commerce comparable sales grew 19.5%. Total company comparable sales grew 6.9%. So either way, you did have that sales miss. So, Costco is now trading down around $9, 1%. So pretty quiet after this report.
I was so ticked off on this one. I saw the revenue miss and I saw the stock pop $15, and I'm like, why? I'm like, the earnings beat's good. They won't like the revenue miss.
Nope.
I threw out a short like 9.15, like shorting into it, and it like traded in front of me, Joel. That's the way they do, these market makers. They trade it right in front of your price and don't print you. So I traded like right in front of me, like 9.14, like 90, 99, like right in front of me, and I don't get filled. And then I watched the thing fall $15. And I was like, I won't say the word. But that's what happens sometimes, like and a lot of times is you make a market, you have your order out there, your offer sitting there, and the market maker will have they have the buy orders coming in and they work it and they fill it in front of you to themselves. That happens. That's how Citadel makes all their money. It's just basically trading ahead of orders. Not illegal. They just giving a better price. They're giving what you call price improvement. So if you're out there offering a 9.15 and they can trade in front of you at 9.14.99 all day, they could trade because they're giving a better price to the buyer.
They are.
But we've argued that for years. It's again, this isn't an earnings play. It's moving around a lot. There's 10 million examples of what I just said out there. It sucks though on something like that when you just watch it fall that quickly and you're like, I could have made a lot of money on that, and I literally just got screwed.
Was it after it printed the 9/18/50?
Yeah, I always let it
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Because
It's
I'm
hard. You
looking.
could do it on the initial, Joel, when you're
I
trading. This is
know. I
good.
see it.
We're going to do a lesson sometime on how to trade earnings. It would be a long lesson, but you almost when you're doing this, you gotta let the initial move go because you don't know how violent it can get. And then you see the pause and the dip, and you see, oh, they do care about the revenue all of a sudden. You can tell there's people coming in, real orders, because the algos are stupid. They just buy, earnings beat, buy. Then you have logic coming in because the human trader is slower. And logic says, no, they missed on revenue. Big time. I'm going to try to, get, sell some of the stock here. And then they start to come in. So then you see it coming down. And then there may be other people like, well, no, its cost goes up. Johnny come lately. It's like they try to buy. Those are the people you want to sell to. The logic of the human trader is usually correct. So so I was disappointed. Anyways, I'm not saying I'll take the Citadel comment. We don't know who it was. There's multiple market makers. We know they all make money. So I strike that comment from the record. But there's, market makers that trade ahead of your orders all the time. And sometimes you just don't get filled. So sometimes you shouldn't get filled. Maybe it was another order that came in. I don't know. Maybe somebody came in and just coincidentally was just ahead of me. But that's market structure issues. We don't have to get into all that too. But it sucks when you're like right there and it trades to your price. And you guys know, everybody knows, in the chat, how often you see a stock trade to your price, but you don't get filled. And then it goes the other way and you're like, ah. And I mean, you think, why didn't I go lower? A lot of times you go lower, it would just trade to your price again. I mean, that's where the holes in the whole system and the plumbing suck, where there's market makers that have the privilege to trade ahead of your order all day long. Not front running it, but saying you're out there and they're just putting it, so basically you have a sell order out there. They have the buy order in their books. They're controlling where the price goes. They called it pennying when it was, on the exchange, like when it was the specialist, designated market maker on the floor, they would like print it ahead of you. And it's like, oh, you screwed me. Because, there's nothing there. So
and you call down to the floor and you'd send down the floor. You could talk to a floor governor and then you would appeal again. And
you can't do any of that now. They took all that away. And the floor traders it's none of this happening on the floor anymore. It's all done, those market makers. And they do screw you. So it is what it is.
Yeah, there's some good stories on that.
PCE.
Yeah, let's go. PCE.
In 2 minutes, let me give you guys a preview
I don't even know
there.
How to handle this.
This is, of course, the producer consumption expenditure. This is this is the personal consumption expenditure. So this is coming in. They say this is like the Fed's favorite measure of inflation. I feel like the market still cares more about CPI, but I guess this matters a lot to the Fed. We're looking for 0.4% growth of the PCE in August. 0.4, that'll be the number to watch. Core PCE is expected to come in year over year at 2.7%. Year over year, PCE is expected to come in at 2.3%. It was previously 2.5%. So that is expected to fall 0.2% from July's numbers to August's numbers. So the bar here is pretty high as we're looking for inflation data to continue to fall toward that Fed's 2% target rate. So we're 1 minute away from the PCE numbers. And then after that, we'll bring on Jay Woods, who's hanging out backstage.
Go in the background. Hey, just real quick for you Costco traders out there, I'd like to see it fill the gap, get up to, get back to yesterday's low. Technical setup in the S&P here, pretty dicey. I don't have any numbers here. The only numbers are yesterday's high on the upside, 58.30. That was made during the pre-market trading. Didn't quite get that high in the regular session. The only good number I can give you on the downside here, that would be Thursday's low at 78.25. We're not quite equidistant from both of them, but really, you think the Fed might have had these numbers when they made that half-rate decision. But right now, as we stand, we're trading up a couple handles. The algos are getting prepared to do some algo jumping, currently trading up.
8:30.
Initial pop up. So I think it's coming in line or a little bit better than expected. Looks like one of the most inline numbers I think I've ever seen.
Core PCE month over month for August came in at 0.1% versus 0.2%. Core PCE year over year came in at 2.7 versus 2.7. You're smart, Joel. That came in exactly in line there. That core PCE year over year, 2.7%. PCE price index year over year came in at 2.2 versus 2.3%. So it's all either in line or slightly cooler than in line. US PCE price index month over month for August came in at 0.1 versus 0.2. So it all sounds good to me because it didn't. I mean, there's even a zone where if you came in too cool here, people start worrying about deflationary pressures and disinflation that could be problematic for the economy as well. So kind of seems like good that it's coming in line or a little bit cooler than expected here for PCE numbers in July.
Yeah, really, haven't had any knee-jerk reaction down as of yet. Kind of just a steady eddy, moving higher here, making a new high in the pre-market session. The only thing that I'm feeling here on the upside is people that maybe I should have sold at 58.13.5 yesterday or 58.15. They didn't get the scale out it enough, so maybe there's some offers here. But so far, this is kind of going along with what the Fed wants, right? And the numbers are coming down, inflation coming down. We'll do a gut check. I like that the chat says, what's the TLT doing? Boom, boom, which has been in a downturn. You got a nice pop here in the TLT. I would keep an eye on that as long as the TLT has had been under pressure a little bit lately. As long as that continues to hold the bid here, I think they'll hold the bid here in the S&P 500 index. So a very, very tame number. Aaron, unless you have some other comments on the number.
No, my only comment is that you've been talking too much. So let's bring someone else on, and let's bring Jay Woods, who's hanging out backstage. Mr. Jay Woods coming back on Pre-Market Prep. Let's give him our special welcome. All right, Jay Woods, Chief Market Strategist over at Freedom Markets. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me back.
Of course. So since the last time we've talked, a lot has happened. The Fed cut 50 basis points. We've been, kind of bouncing around, but at the end of the result, all-time highs. How we feeling, Jay?
Yeah, we're feeling good. That little September swoon that I thought we would have, that little pause, we broke out. I was a little weary. That 50 basis point cut, I don't know if you guys were calling for it. I definitely didn't see it coming. I know Powell kind of got word to Timorous there before the meeting, and the whispers came out, and that's why the odds changed so much as to what the cut would be. And I also want to know, who are these people? How do these odds change so much? We've been doing this a long time, Joel. I've never seen a 50 versus 25 debate like this ever, and be so divided about it. And then two, the odds of the rate cut, or when we were doing hikes a year ago, changed so dramatically. It was like with the wind. But the thing is, the market is the one that matters, and the market voted that they approved of this. And now we're slowly and steadily going up. And what hasn't really participated just yet? Technology. If you look at the top performers over the last 3 months, technology is number 10 out of 11. So they're right on the bottom, only beating energy out. And I think that really sets us up well going into the fourth quarter, because we look at these technology names. Thank you, Micron, yesterday, breaking out of that little downtrend and that consolidation period. I love how quick you guys are. I mentioned a stock and boom, you guys have it on the screen. And now NVIDIA is coiling, and we saw this show last year at the exact same time, where in August it peaked. It came back. This time it came back 35%. That was a hell of a pullback, but it didn't break. It didn't break its long-term trends. And now I see construction in these technology stocks, and if they get back to just their yearly highs, which are all-time in most cases, that's going to be the tailwind this market needs, because they make up such a great percentage of the S&P 500 that a 5% rally
Mhm.
That's a layup, and that's 6,000. So when you come on and say, "Oh, S&P is going to 6,000," you sound like, "Oh, wow, that's a crazy call." No, it's not. It's up 5% from where we are. We got 3 months to do it. Look at what China did this week. That was how much? How much are they up? I'm losing track. I know
It's their
there's.
biggest, yeah, one of their biggest weeks ever. You know what, Jay? I was on the same side of the fence with you,
Mhm.
about a quarter versus a half, and then I was out last week and I started to think about it, and so I believe the next meeting and the next Fed rate decision is the day after the election.
It
And
is.
so I think, don't quote me on that. I thought I read that. So, I don't know if they're going to want to do anything on that day, right? Who knows what's going
Yeah.
to go on that day?
Hmm.
So just to facilitate, if they wanted to go a quarter and then a quarter, but maybe, and I'm sure they're not, they're not political. They're not looking at the political candle. When I looked at it from that perspective, then it kind of made sense. So now the expectations are going to be, another quarter, another half. I don't know. We're getting some good data, but I wanted to talk to you about a sector, an emerging sector. I love your comment about the utility sector. And you said it's not your grandparents' utilities anymore. Please go into that.
Yeah, if you could punch up a 5-year weekly chart on the utility sector, for those technicians out there, you're going to be like, whoa, wait a second, this thing just broke out. Nice rounded bottom breakout. And where did we see this before? We saw it in the S&P 500. We saw it in NVIDIA before the S&P 500. And now you're seeing it in utilities. And, utilities have always had this, it's boring. They're there for grandma and grandpa to collect your dividend. But something big happened last Friday, and it's been brewing before last Friday. But that Microsoft Constellation news, symbol CEG, Constellation, they own 3 Mile Island. So all of a sudden, everyone's like, wait a second, I remember 3 Mile Island. Aaron, you may not, but other people do. It was the end of the world when it melted down, and living in Philadelphia, it was kind of scary. But nuclear power is what people in the AI space, what these AI companies are looking towards to power the grid. My friend and the CEO of Generac, Aaron Jagfeld, he went around last April making the speaking rounds. Generac is how are they doing with the hurricane? Usually we get spikes in GNRC. He was talking about the demands on the grid just because of AI. When you do a chat GPT search, it takes 17 times more energy than a simple Google search. And guess what? I'm changing my habits. I'm going chat GPT now too to search for things.
Wow.
And you can
There's
see. I know. Yeah, if it's coming from the CEO of Generac, I trust that to be an accurate stat. And then the demand on the grid based on the AI demand is going to be 5 times greater than it is now. So when you see Bill Gates and you see Sam Altman, they are investing in their own. It's TerraPower for Microsoft or for Bill Gates, and then Sam Altman, OKLO. It went public via SPAC. It's an $8.50 stock. This is his way to create his own power company. This one, Oklo, is based out in Idaho. There are going to be so many regulatory hurdles. This will be the next big thing after the election cycle, trying to get 3 Mile Island powered up again. It's still online. This is not the generator that broke down. They have 4. But this is the one that's going to hopefully power Microsoft and power the grid. So there's going to be such demand for power. These utility companies, which are just slow and steady growers, are now being turned to by Microsoft. Amazon's already talked to Vistra, I believe. And then you've got, the top 4 sector, the top 4 companies in the XLU. You have, I'm doing this off of memory, it's NextEra, Southern, Duke, and then Constellation. And that's 35% of the XLU. So we're not talking about your water company. We're not talking about the boring Con Eds of the world. We're talking about companies that do have nuclear power plants already online that are going to be turned to by these big tech companies. So when I see a breakout price action confirm it, this is just the start. Yes, we missed it. Yeah, if I'm buying Chinese stocks now, if I'm buying Vistra now, I'm buying Constellation now, I missed a big pop. But I think for a long-term investor, the story is just starting to play out. These won't go online until 2027, 2028. So it will be hyped up. And hype is when you generally get most of the meat of a trade. So when I see utilities breaking out, yes, it's the top performing sector this year. It's only done that once since these ETFs came into play, and that was 2014. So to me, it's piqued my interest. I did a little more of a deep dive. I looked at the companies that have the most nuclear power plants already online, and those are the top 4 sectors, the top 4 stocks in the XLU, and then Entergy, symbol ETR, I believe, is another one with a lot of nuclear exposure. Not in the XLU, but it's a company worth watching as well. So those are the things that piqued my interest. I'm writing about it this week, so you're getting a sneak preview of what's going to come out of my newsletter on Monday. But technically, they have my blessing, and then you look at the fundamentals, the story behind it, and then you look at the names investing in it. Yeah, this is something to watch. So therefore, Joel, not your grandparents' utilities anymore.
So Jay, I want to stay on this for a second because I've been looking at a lot of these nuclear stocks. I actually, almost took a starter position in Oklo the other day when I was reading about it because they just broke ground on their plant out in Idaho. Yep. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, because it sounds like you're a lot more knowledgeable on this subject than I am. But I mean, for overall utility, like to power your home or my home, like that's, we're super far down the road. There's a lot of regulatory hurdles. We don't know if that's going to be coming for nuclear. But these SMRs, small modular reactors, that's like what we saw with Microsoft and Constellation, that basically they're commissioning a plant specifically to power this one company. So it's not going to be doing like the whole grid for all these neighborhoods and stuff, but specifically for this one plant, they can do these SMRs. And that's what Oklo is kind of aiming to be, build these like smaller reactors that are just for specific companies and not necessarily like taking over a whole power grid.
Correct. And that's exactly what it is. So when you see Microsoft do that deal with Constellation, it's already established they don't have to do the build themselves. Now, the rates that they'll get charged are going to be exorbitant, but the Sam Altmans of the world and Oklo, they're hoping that, regulators, I don't know what this bucolic town in Idaho looks like, but I'm sure there are people on the green energy side that are like, we do not want this in our backyard. No one wants a nuclear plant in their backyard. I am not an expert on it, but from what I've read, the carbon footprint isn't going to be damaging to the environment as much as it is. I don't know. The water that they use, is it going to be, are we going to have three-eyed fish swimming up next to us at the beach soon? These are things I have to do my research on. Well, in Springfield, I have Springfield, USA. We know there have been three-eyed fish for you Simpsons fans, but no, there are a lot of questions, and there will be regulatory hurdles because there are going to be people that want to, make headlines. I'm sure Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren will somehow be against it, somehow, some way. And I'm sure there are extreme people on the right that will have issues as well. So this isn't just snap your fingers, okay, we fixed it. No, this is going to be in the news a lot. It just hasn't made the headlines yet. And when you have people like Bill Gates investing $1 billion, I'll ride those coattails for a little bit. Sam Altman, another great, visionary, if you will. I think it's worth taking a flyer. And when you have an $8.50 stock and you have a little money to put away, you might as well put that away and see what happens 12 months down the road.
So you mentioned, how much how much energy it takes for just a simple search on ChatGPT. And we know going forward with AI, this energy production is a big question. Who has more influence in the world of AI than Sam Altman? Nobody. What would stop, Sam Altman from basically being, if companies want OpenAI's technology to be like, okay, yeah, sure, but you're going to use Oklo to power it? Do you think he could use some of his influence in the AI sphere to help push Oklo's services as we move forward?
Of course he is. I mean, he would be foolish not to, but the competition is, we're talking Mag 7 stocks. I want to see what Elon Musk's thoughts are on this. I haven't heard him talk too much on the nuclear side of things. So I really think it's early innings, but right now, if you've got to follow one person, I would go Sam Altman, and I would put Bill Gates right up there with them. There's a reason they're investing in this technology. There's a reason they know that the grid is going to be it's going to be tested, and we need alternatives. And nuclear right now is that alternative. Besides building out your own plants, which Altman and Gates are trying to do themselves.
Yeah, and again, I would rather go with the companies that are focusing on these SRMs that are targeting, individual companies, because I think there'll be less regulatory hurdles than a nuclear company that's trying to take over, the power grid of a whole neighborhood, because there'll just be more, government hoopla about that than if Microsoft wants to pay Constellation to build a factory specifically for Microsoft. There might be a little bit less regulatory hurdles there. Still some, but not as much. What about any other sectors, Jay, outside of nuclear that you've been watching?
Before we move on for this real quick, do you think this whole puts a fork in the solar sector? I mean,
listen, I've never been a fan of the solar sector from the solar sector has its moves, and it usually happens in election cycles when Democrats are leading and then they get into power and they just fall out of bed. Solar to me, it's too streaky. I haven't seen the long-term growth. You don't see trends that continue to go, from the bottom left to the top right. While it's an important source of energy, it's not really found its niche in the world, and we've been waiting on this since the Obama administration. So the TAN ETF, I'm familiar with it. I see it on the screen here. That doesn't look like a chart I want to really jump into. What I do want to pivot to other sectors are stocks that are breaking out, sectors that are breaking out. I look at materials. They're finally joining the party. The XLB has been down in the dumps for a little while, starting to break out if you look at that. And then financials. Financials have a great tailwind. We talk about cutting rates. If you listen to Jamie Dimon, financials are the worst place to invest. And oh my God, we have so many geopolitical risks. But Jamie Dimon is the greatest. He's the perfect trader, Dennis. He's a guy as someone that was a market maker. And I heard you talking about the market makers before I hopped on here. Don't let me think I'm going to let you off the hook. Not you, no way.
Anybody. Jay
and as a governor down there for years, I heard all the complaints, and I get it. I understand. You always need some of the blame when your trades don't go right, and you always blame the market maker and the specialist on the floor. And
we love the specialist. The
specialist specialist.
Wasn't the specialist system better? At least you had affirmative and negative obligations. The negative obligations is what doesn't exist anymore. And you can get into that, but that's one thing that's missing from the market is negative obligations, where market makers don't step in the middle of it when there's a natural buyer and a seller. And we're missing that now. We lost that with the floor. I think the floor was a more fair system.
Well, the floor still has a market-making system. They still have an obligation. The obligation has changed where our guidelines to buy and sell within a certain range based on price metrics and volume metrics is not as stringent as it once was. You lose that human interaction where if you had a broker representing your order, they could get in the face of that specialist, a place where your word was your bond. We could do a whole special on this if you want to. Call me up, Dennis. We'll talk about how things have changed and the value of having that human at price, and now how you can get micro pennied instead of just pennied. The specialists, the market makers on the floor only trade in penny increments. So when things trade in a sub penny, they didn't do it. I can promise you that.
Exactly.
The internalizers, the Jane Streets, Jane Street gets no mention at all, by the way. They just fly under the Citadel radar. They're a behemoth in the market making industry. No one knows them, but good for them. That's the way it should be. The systems will always evolve. And listen, if I could get back in the time machine and go back to open outcry and physical yelling and screaming at people and then settling your disputes at the bar.
We do that on our show every day. So you can
Joel, you yell, Joel? I've never heard you yell, at least in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Lisa tells me I don't talk loud enough, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" People say I talk, but no. The good thing about the market makers and back in the specialist day is that, when it hit the fan, right? And when we were a group as bright traders, we would go in there and at the craziest moment and try and provide liquidity. And sometimes when the markets were just the absolute craziest, you would get the almost unbelievable good fills because you were there. You were, something was just falling out of bed and you were like, boom, boom, throwing bids out there. Then they make a big print, and you're
Remember, they
like,
go one up. Remember, they
Yeah.
go one up.
Yeah,
One up.
On the exchange.
One up.
Because he
Oh my
couldn't lift a
God.
100 and a 100. So the specialists just go
Yeah.
one up, 100 bid on the 100 in the offer, and we're putting something together here right now.
Yeah, that negotiation. Now it's algorithmic and speed, so the moves in the markets tend to be really overdone. We had that August 5th with the VIX at 60. I have still no idea how that happened. Third highest rating in the VIX ever. Are you kidding me? It was bigger than 9/11. But yeah, that's
Jay, they're going to start a new floor exchange where everything is fair. And Jay's the governor. We're all good governors. We're good.
You know what's the best? The best I've ever seen on a screen. I think it was like 2000, 2001. I was short a stock, and it went trip nines on the offer. It was Goldman Sachs.
And that was me.
I mean, the scap went down big time.
That's where I work.
Yeah, and it was trip nines at the point, and like it was 95 bid for 100. And I'm like, oh my God. And I just saw all these orders.
$5 right
and
now.
they filled everything at like 94. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I turned, those days don't happen anymore.
Yeah, no, they don't. And when you live through it as a market maker, you almost die. I mean, I'm bald for a reason. And yes, we are. When they're calling out fire in a crowded movie theater, we're the firefighter that they're running out as we're trying to run in and put bids and establish a market. So when you have panic days like we had, like August 5th, think about it. I was blessed that I was on a network at 5:30 in the morning, not blessed in that regard on that morning. And I saw NVIDIA trading under 95. I go, listen, if you can get NVIDIA under 95 right now, this is the day you put in low ball bids and you hope you get hit because these are gifts for the longer term investor. It may not happen right away, but yeah, we don't see moves like that too often, thankfully. But when you do, that's when you have to really take a deep breath and look at your levels, know your levels, get those charts out and say, listen, if I get an opportunity to buy stock XYZ down X%, I'm going to take a shot and then I'll stop myself out and, take the risk. That's when you want to put risk on, not risk off. And I'll never understand that herd mentality. I have to get out. So that's why we've done okay. And we're still trading and in the business as long as we have been. It's,
what else the exchanges do well, and I'm a fan of the exchanges, is that
Are you?
you get back in the day, I really love the exchange. I'm against the off exchange stuff. I've always been, if you like my stuff, it's off exchange.
I watch you.
Yeah. I've been a fan of the exchanges. I think volume leaving the exchanges is not a good thing for markets. I think more transparency, more pre-trade transparency is a good thing. But one thing is, back in the day, and Joel, you'd know this too, if you had a fat finger where somebody accidentally, put an extra zero, or they were trying to sell $1 million worth and they sold 1 million shares, the specialist on the floor would say, are you sure? There would be like a check there and say, whoa, hey, what's going on? They go one up and they're like, yeah, okay, 1 million shares to sell, okay. Now if they press 1 million shares, it's gone and executed, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. That's where the speed, if you have a human mistake or even an algorithmic mistake, which we've seen before, it's gone. The trades are executed instantaneously. That's the downside of, having faster and faster and faster executions, is that when fat fingers happen, they do a lot of damage.
Dennis, I use this example all the time when I bring people to the stock exchange. We have circuit breakers in place, so there is a talking point to that narrative. If it goes down 5% within a 5-minute rolling window of the recent average between 9:40 and 3:20 in the afternoon, we'll pause because there could be just that error. I mean, imagine giving young Aaron his first trade and he gets a little nervous. Yes, I'm picking on you, Aaron. And it's 10,000 to sell and he adds an extra zero and hits done. Well, you're gonna strangle Aaron, and he's gonna turn pale. But that 100,000 to sell, you don't go into a human and say, "Wait a second, are you sure?" Or have the other side of that trade there, and you physically grab a broker by the back of his neck. He's got a problem, and we talk it through and help each other out, because you don't want to bury anybody. You got to work with these people. But if young Aaron puts in 100,000 to sell, it's selling it at the market until it gets to that threshold that causes a circuit breaker, or it executes, and then guess what? He's on the hook for it. His bosses are on the hook for it. And then you got to work your way out of it. So, yeah, these are extreme examples, but they happen a lot. That fat finger is a real thing. Someone could spill, a soda on their terminal and causes who knows what.
Jay, we got to ask.
yeah.
I want to ask you about China, and now we're coming up on the hour. China.
Yeah, I got to roll. Yes, go.
Ask the
China.
question.
China.
Oh, that's the question. How
It's
China?
China. It's just a one-word question.
It's
China.
second big. It's the second biggest economy in the world now. And no, what we see out of China, I look at it two ways. I look at it one. I don't trust the data that comes out of China. They're throwing a bazooka at their economy. It's been the worst performing market in the globe. I mean, unless I'm missing a country that I don't know. But China is trying to play catch up. This is COVID-like. Economic recovery, technically, let's talk about China. We saw, some double bottoms. You go back long term over the Shanghai index, and we've got a nice bounce. Would I chase it right now? Would I go all in like David Tepper said on another network yesterday? I don't know, but I think look at it risk reward. There's opportunity here. The K-Web is just breaking out. PDD, Alibaba, these stocks on a long-term horizon, this is very interesting. We're seeing breakouts. We can now use the recent gap up as a stop to get out of it. How long will this rally continue? It could continue for a few more months into year end. So it's interesting. I wouldn't go all in like David Tepper is talking about. I think he should focus on his Carolina Panthers a little bit more. He's got some problems there. But you can't ignore what's going on there. And for your active traders, you could probably still get a little more out of this trade. I think if you're looking long term, it's broken its downtrend. Something's changed. But when you get news out of China, I remember back to 2015. I remember back to all the other times that the China economy has made big moves like this. You take your profits. You take your profits when you can. Long term, it may be worth putting a little bit of money into some of these indexes, some of these funds. But use your stops accordingly because the volatility there is too excessive. I mean, we complained when our volatility on August 5th is, we're down. What were we down that day? 3%, 4% in the grand scheme of things. That was a 60 VIX. These Chinese stocks are worth playing, but you got to watch them. You have the community there that's pretty in tune with you guys to watch these pivots. But I don't know how much I trust the data. I don't know how much I trust what's going on. Where's Jack Ma? Tell me where Jack Ma is, and maybe I'll trust things a little bit more.
I was worried about Jack for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, show up on some game show or something.
Was it really
the
Jack Ma?
man.
But here, I'll tell you a quick Jack Ma story, then I have to bolt for the stock exchange. But when they went public, I think it was 10 years ago now, Jack Ma was high-fiving everybody. He was doing media. He was very front-facing. And there was some great enthusiasm and trust when you met this gentleman and how much love and passion he had, not just for his company, but for the capital markets. And now he's just been silenced. He's been put on the sideline. That, to me, is kind of fishy, just knowing how electric and eclectic he was. I'm Walt Frazier with these rhymes. Electric and eclectic, yes. New York Knicks fans would get that reference. But Clyde Frazier. But there's just something that you don't trust when it comes to news out of China. But I do trust price action. I do trust technicals. And I see breakouts from nice longer-term downtrends, so it's worth taking a flyer, using your stops accordingly. And that's how I trade China, all technically. I don't trust the fundamentals.
Jay Wood, CMT, Chief Global Strategist over there at Freedom Capital Markets. If you want to get his newsletter, I popped it in there a couple times. Jay, you're a great guest.
Awesome.
Great to have you on. We'll be dialing you up again next month. Thanks a lot.
All
Jay.
right, Aaron, I apologize for picking on you.
No, I'll try not to fat finger the 10,000 cells.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.
You too, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Energy, man.
Energy and truth. The guy's speaking truth over there, too. I love the exchanges. Public exchanges, more pre-trade transparency. What's happened with our markets? They've gone dark. Where we had off-exchange trading was a small portion of the markets. It's now half the markets, even more than half the markets. And the small caps, some of them it's 80, 90%. Why are the small caps a mess? Because there's no pre-trade transparency on the exchanges anymore. Everything off exchange, there's no quotes. They just take the quotes from the exchange and they just match them all the time. Free riding off the public quotes. The exchanges give us public quotes. We love the exchanges and we love Jay Woods.
All right, running up on time here, 9 a.m. Here on a Friday. So we're going to wrap up pre-market prep for the week. Let me just check any big stories that we missed today. We never talked about the
Bristol Myers.
we
Bristol
never talked about-
Myers, as Kramer would say.
How
Bristol
did we never-
Myers, I'm back. Holy, my long-term portfolio, man. It's like, I went in that like slump where it's like every day I was getting hit with bad news, like the Intel and this, the SMCI hit me, and it comes around. And now I'm like getting some good headlines hit my portfolio. The China, you know, quantitative ease and QE in China. Portfolio's going up and Tesla's running up. And now I get Bristol Myers out of nowhere here. BMY. Nice.
Yeah, so basically the headline is that the company got a schizophrenia drug approved. The FDA approved this drug from Bristol Myers, and there's been only one, available approved treatment for adult schizophrenia over the past 2 decades. So the fact that they have another drug entering this market is pretty significant. You know, not the biggest market in the world, but again, anytime you're tapping into a market where there's only one competitor should be good news for Bristol Myers. Other than that, we also were going to talk about some of the casino stocks, more specifically.
Oh, we missed those too?
The casino stocks with exposure to Macau.
Win.
That's specifically LVS and Win. Morgan Stanley upgraded Win. Talking about strength in Macau. This is going back to China. So just wanted to clean those up real quick before we wrap.
Wow.
I love these upgrades. Stock runs 10% in 3 days, and now we upgraded here. Holy wow. Give us some. Like, why didn't you upgrade 3 days ago?
Yeah.
They wait for the move. They chase the price. This is another one that's just chasing price. But again, what you've got to realize is that Wynn and Las Vegas are China stocks. I know it does. It seems Las Vegas Sands. You know, it seems like, oh yeah, this is a play on Las Vegas. No, it's not. To AB's point, the majority of Las Vegas Sands revenue and the majority of Wynn revenue comes from Macau. So it's not surprising China finally lifting that Wynn and Las Vegas Sands participate here. Even though, obviously, U.S. companies, majority of the revenue coming from China, treat them like China stocks.
Well, alrighty. Now it is 9:02, so time to wrap on pre-market prep. Sorry we missed some of those headlines. We meant to get to them today, but we were doing a rapid fire show. We got to a lot of different things.
A lot of information.
We will be back on Monday, of course. We do have live trading starting up after this. Joel, off the top of your head, do you know who's coming on Monday?
Of course. And I'll give you guys a little bit of a hint. Market structure
Edge.
Monday. Yep.
Tim.
Yep.
Tim
Yep.
Seymour.
Quast.
Yep.
Tim
No, Tim
Seymour. Tim
Quast.
Seymour. It's Tim Seymour.
Tim Quast. Tim
We love
Quast
Tim Seymour, too.
gonna wrap up the month, see what he's seeing out there with the bids and the offers, market liquidity.
We can get
implications.
right into this same conversation. I'll tell you something. Tim would be on our same side. I'll tell you right now, he'd be on our same side.
Okay.
A lot of smart people know where market needs fixing.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys on Monday. Till then, have a great weekend. Hope if you're an NFL fan or a college football fan, all your teams win. And we'll be back on Monday. With that, please smash the like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and thank you to tuning in for pre-market prep.